I am the host, and today we have a massive episode announcing our top 10 most listened episodes for 2021. I'll be providing 10 key questions for the footballers listening to this podcast to ask yourself if you want to get fitter, faster, and stronger for the 2022 season. And of course, like I do every week, announce the upcoming live chats that we have on the YouTube channel and the episodes to be released on the podcast. We release those episodes Tuesday. We have a Get Better Plan educational episode on Wednesday, and we have another interview for the podcast that releases on Friday. So we'll get straight into the top 10 episodes for 2021, and starting out at number 10, we have Anthony Koutoufides, the AFL champion. Then at number 9, we have Jay Ellis, a strength and conditioning coach at Melbourne United. Number 8, we have Jordan Stairs, another strength and conditioning coach for the West Coast Eagles. Number 7, Andrew Russell, also known as Jack, the Carlton High Performance Manager. Jordan Seller, the High Performance Manager of the AFLW Women's Team for the Adelaide Crows. Lee Meehan, the Sports Dietitian at the Collingwood Football Club. Gaetano Ferranda, another strength and conditioning coach who at the time was the high performance manager at Williamstown. He's now teaching at Victoria University. And our top 3, big drum roll, we have at number 3, Sam Sosky, who's a medium forward for the Fremantle Football Club. Number 2, Selwyn Griffith, who at the time was the head strength and conditioning coach for the Premiers, the Melbourne Football Club. He has now taken over the reins and he's the high performance manager. And number 1, Darren Burgess, who at the time was the high performance manager of the Premiers, the Melbourne Football Club, now moved over to Adelaide Football Club, where he's the high performance manager. So thank you to all our guests that started on the episode, and it was great to see our first year underway. There's been a massive amount of growth where we've pretty much getting 10 times the amount of listens that we did when we started one. And it's great to see not only strength and conditioning coaches listening in, but we're getting AFL players that are ranking highly. We're getting dietitians, nice blend, which is something that we're passionate about and something that I know I love to learn off and have a bit of a holistic approach where we're getting a wide spread of practitioners and experts in their field, whether they're coming from a player's perspective, we're coming from the mental health psychology perspective, nutrition and recovery, from a strength and conditioning point of view. So we'll continue to ensure that we keep having guests from all those different areas. But clearly, strength and conditioning coaches seem to be ranking quite highly. So I can imagine there's a lot of coaches tuning into this podcast. So we'll make sure that we continue to reach out to many SNCs for 2022. But of course, the footballers and athletes are listening in as well. But we're getting in those athletes and continually getting in the different widespread. It's not all just strength and conditioning. We'll make sure we keep in plenty of variation. If you have any recommendations for guests that you think would present well on our podcast, you can make a recommendation and send that through to me on any of our socials via direct message or email it through at jack@preparelikeapro.com. But I just wanted to take this in to thank all our guests for taking out the time of your day to come on the podcast and share your expertise and your knowledge, and more importantly, how you go about your challenges throughout your career. Obviously, it's not all linear once you've had a long career, and I think we can learn a lot off those who've got experience in the game and how they navigate through the challenges, but also success leaves clues, so learning off what works well from a practitioner point of view. Okay, we'll go into the upcoming guests now for this week. We've got a live episode Monday night. So for those listening in the podcast world, you're probably listening on a Monday. So tonight, and those listening live, it'll be tomorrow night. So 8:30 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time, I'll be interviewing Nicholas Rule, who is our Corfu Grammarians men's strength and conditioning coach. He's an intern for Prepare Like a Pro, where basically I design the strength and the conditioning program, and he individualizes it for rehabilitation purposes or performance purposes for the athletes, as well as integrates that with the skills program. So he runs the sessions, facilitates the program for the athletes there, and it's a great club. It's been super successful over its time, more recently in the last few years. So really excited for Nick and the Caulfield Grammarians Football Club and what they can achieve in season 2022. So we'll be interviewing Nick and discussing his journey so far in the strength and conditioning industry. He's a exercise physiologist by trade, and he's got a full-time job as an EP. So really looking forward to discussing how he balances his full-time job. He's also a father, and how he finds the time to be able to work with the boys in the afternoon. If you want to listen to that live episode, all you need to do is subscribe to our YouTube channel by searching for Prepare Like a Pro, and you can send in your questions as well for Nick or myself via any of our socials through direct message or email. In terms of the podcast, on Tuesday, we have the co-CEO and founder of Barefoot Training, Cameron Falloon. This episode is one that you definitely not want to miss, whether you're a business owner, you're a high performance manager, strength and conditioning coach, or you're an athlete looking for practical tips to take yourself to the next level. Cam shares and provides lots of gems throughout this episode. It's super inspiring coming from his own journey as an athlete and having a severe back injury and then rehabilitating himself and then working in the AFL industry. He's worked 3 different AFL clubs and worked from a strength and conditioning coach, rehabilitation, but also as a manager, as a high performance manager. He's worked over in England and in the academy program for English Premier League. And he's also, of course, famously CEO of Barefoot Training and founded that business. So we discuss how he went about creating that business and how he transferred from elite sport to working in the private sector. So definitely don't want to miss that one. On Wednesday, our Get Better plan will be around stress and improving your mental game from an athlete's perspective. So coping strategies that you can implement to things like mindfulness, meditation, and just trialing some different breathing methods and having awareness. Self-awareness is huge when it comes to this space. And I just provide a couple of tips and tricks that have worked for me as well as the athletes that I've worked with. And things I've learned along the way from sports psychologists that I've worked with over my time. So definitely recommend listening to that. And even for the coaches as well, if you're interested in that topic, make sure to tune in. It's a short one, and make sure I provide a lot of informative information and some practical tips, hopefully for you guys to improve your mental game. And then on Friday, talking about mental game, we have Matthew Mcgregor, who's a sports psychologist. I was lucky enough to work with Matt at the Hawthorn Football Club. He's currently the AFL Players Association Sports Psych, as well as running his own company that's going to be working with community-based sporting teams in the upcoming 2022 year. So watch this space, but we discuss all things around how to deal with adversity, what does resilience look like, and how you can develop your resilience from a mental point of view, and even if you're coming from not from an athlete pursuit, but you just want to improve your coping strategies for life and performance in life, definitely recommend listening to this one. Matt shares his experiences and hardship that he's gone through and how he's coped, and the importance of sleep and looking after yourself and exercise for being able to deal with challenging situations. But also from a performance point of view, how can you find a routine for the athletes out there that starts from recovery early in the week, leads up into building your arousals that is specific to your game, that's going to allow you to perform well and also transfer that throughout the game as well. So not just focusing on preparation as the ball bounces for the start of the game, but throughout the game as well. So definitely recommend listening to Matt's podcast. He provides his fully. We go into great detail around some practical tips on how you can improve that area. That's it for for next week's episodes. We've got a new segment starting for 2022, which I'm super excited to announce, where our newsletter and academy members, so those on the online individual academy, we always catch up every Sunday at 5 p.m. And our newsletter members, so those subscribed on our newsletter, will have exclusive access to join us. And we catch up every Sunday at 5 p.m. where I present on a topic for about 15 minutes. Let's say it's like speed development. And I present through Zoom, a couple of slides via PowerPoint, and then hang around for 15-20 minutes answering any questions for those on our program. So we want to get the newsletter members involved. Obviously, we share exclusive access in terms of our any discounts that we have with our newsletter. We send through the show notes from the podcast, blog posts, and heaps of educational content, as well as some recorded presentations. But we want to start engaging with you guys now from a live platform. So if you're not a member on the newsletter, it's completely free. All you need to do is go to preparelikeapro.com. And actually, for those that sign up, you get a free masterclass, fitness for masterclass presentation, as well as a 2-week free trial on our online program. So all you need to do is head over to our website, enter in your email address, and you'll be away. And I'll be starting that every month. That will start on Sunday, the 9th of January. Okay, let's head over to Instagram now for our live Q&A. Hello, Instagram, and thank you for tuning in to this week's Prepare Like a Pro Live Chat Sunday show. 3 questions to answer, but if you are tuned in and you have any questions, make sure to just hit the question button at the bottom of your screen, and I'll do my best to answer your questions. So we'll start with Charlie. Has sent through a question via email. His question is pretty simple. Tips for gaining mass. So for those that want to gain mass in the gym, a nice simple thing that you can start doing is slowing down your movements, particularly your accessory-based movements, so not your power-based exercises that you're doing early on in the program. If you're following a good periodized strength and conditioning program, you'll have your heavy lifts and your speed and power-based stuff at the start. Still attack that, focus on lifting heavy and lifting fast, but accessory movements. So it might be things like bolt split squats, chin-ups, push-ups, single arm, single leg exercise of curls, skull crushers, dumbbell lateral raises for the shoulders, whatever it might be, or some ab work. Try and slow down the tempo. So time under tension, where we're trying to increase your time under tension. So slowing down the movement will increase your time under tension, which will elicit a hypertrophy effect for the muscles. And then from there, by doing that with your training, we then want to make sure that we're fueling your training. So high protein is really, really important. So making sure that you're getting regular protein hours to 48 hours. And it's not all about density, but it's actually spreading that protein consumption after your digestive system and trying to have a protein every 2 to 3 hours. And then from there, the third aspect to is making sure you're getting quality sleep. So you fall into sleep within 30 minutes, you're not restless, you're getting a good 8 hours of recovery, and you're doing that over a weekly basis. So that consistency is really important in terms of your sleep. Hopefully that helps. You need more detail around that, any questions, or if you want to try out our program, we have a 2-week trial where one of the programs we design is called Gainers for that exact reason. It's revolved around improving your strength, improving your power, but also for those footballers that need to gain muscle. Next question is from Bob, and for those tuned in live on Instagram, you feel free to send through your questions and any problems you're having with your strength and conditioning or any feel like you want to work on food, send them through and I'll do my best to answer them. Bob's question is for his daughter. So tip for my daughter who wants to develop her balance. Yeah, balance is probably undervalued in strength and conditioning for most athletes. They want to focus on, and same as coaches, we want to make sure the athletes are getting more powerful, we're getting stronger, we're getting faster and all those sort of sexy things. But balance does allow us to keep our feet on the field. It can help with your skill acquisition, particularly with kicking your feet in the contest. So making sure you're working on your balance is really important. And some great things that you can do would be some like barefoot training. So like any exercise that you're not focusing on max force production, like heavy squats or any jumping plyometric-based movements, or of course, or speed-based running. But for leg exercises, doing it with barefoot will strengthen your foot intrinsics, which are really, really important staples in the feet. And I like to focus on creating an arch. So for those that have flat or flexible feet, really focus on that big toe to the ground. That should create a strong arch for your foot. And that's something we actually want to do with our strength-based movements, as well as improve our balance. So if you're doing a back squat, focus on that big toe, and that will help activate your which will in turn help you use your, so the body is connected all the way through from the ground up. So doing that will only improve your balance, but it'll also improve your output in terms of your strength training. Simple drill that you can that Bobby can start practicing is just standing on one foot with your eyes closed. We're just challenging your proprioceptors by switching off one of your sensors, your eyes, and that will help build awareness around your foot. And that's actually, although it looks simple, it's actually quite a challenging exercise for athletes to do. So that's barefoot, close your eyes and just balance on your foot for maybe 30 seconds. If that's too hard, then break it down. Quality is key. So maybe up with 10 seconds each side, and you can do anywhere between 5 to 10 reps. Hopefully that helps, Bob. If you need more detailed information, feel free to direct message us on our socials or send through an email. And last question is from Jeff. I'm having back issues from heavy lifting, mainly in squats and deadlifts in the gyms. Any advice? Tricky one without seeing what you're doing or looking at your program, Jeff, but straight off the bat, in my experience, people have back issues from back squatting or deadlifts. It sounds like it could be a bracing issue, so making sure that you're not actually sucking in your abs, but you're expanding out. I like to imagine someone was going to punch in the guts as hard as they could. Typically, people brace quite well when they're thinking of that. So focusing on bracing nice and strong, expanding your abdomen before you use your legs is really, really important. I like to call that earn the right to use your leg and focus on that leg drive by bracing your trunk. It can be maybe your wrist squat, you're not pulling down and activating your upper back, you're actually quite loose and relaxed. So activating that upper back can help with the squat, or for the deadlifts, it's using the armpits together. So we're locking the shoulder in place and you're not getting movement through the shoulder. And then technique would be another one as well. So if you want to send through a video, I'm more than happy to give you a couple of tips, mate, and send it through to us via Instagram. But yeah, technique in terms of your efficiency. So what's the bar doing? Is it deviating off equal lines? We want ideal bar going in relatively plane, straight up and down, moving away from the body with the deadlift. So it's not on your shins and on your thighs. Then there's a chance that you could be using your lower back a lot more rather than your hamstrings and glutes. And same for the squat. If the squat's deviating forward, you're loading your toes a lot more rather than the weight being at the midfoot. So bar path can be key, and then also what's your body doing in terms of the movement and technique. Are you losing your posture? What's your neck doing? What's your head doing? All that sort of thing. So technique's a massive one, and one that you want to make sure that you're doing. What I would recommend if you're having back issues would be to strip it right back, get assessed by a physio, one that you know or one that your friends recommend, and have them to see if there's anything structurally going on. And then from there, just ease back into the gym. So slow it down and just change the exercises. Go for a leg press or a hip thrust for a few weeks. Get strong with those accessory movements and work on your bracing technique, and then get back to those movements. And you just start really slow when you get back to your movements. Don't lift maximally on those ones that are hurting your back. Just ease into it, and we call it the feel good rep ranges and weight. The exercises that do feel good and comfortable for your body. Great questions, Charlie, Bob, and Jeff. Thanks for sending those through. If you have any questions in the podcasting world or listening in live, feel free to direct message us. We'll compile all the questions that we get for the week, and then every Sunday at 6 p.m. I'll answer your questions. Next part of the podcast, we have our power tip. So the power tip, and one of the biggest lessons that I learned during the pandemic and continually learning or get friendly reminders from the pandemic, how time can never be an excuse for fitting something into your schedule. So for me, the last 3 personal training, not PT, but my training, doing and strength and weight training has had a massive drop off, and also my reading, a lot more of my education through the practitioners, either through the podcast or just on the phone or in person, and then researching through YouTube podcasts and that sort of thing. But there's a lot of different ways that you want to absorb information, and reading is one of the best ways. So I want to make sure I get habit of that, as well as get my training. So for me, I always thought the excuse was time, but in fact, after going through the pandemic, where you get an amount of time when you get adjusting to a lockdown, time is clearly not an issue. I still found myself not fitting in and prioritizing those. So it's shifting habits and making sure that we're prioritizing tasks that are important. And a big part for me, and something that I learned, is making sure that I'm saying no to certain things to allow time for those things that are important. So that's something I want to share. And the power tip that I've found that works for me is just setting small, tiny goals. So for me, it's just simply I want to make sure I move / exercise 4 times a week, and that I read 10 pages a day. And what indirectly has come from that is because they're achievable, they're sustainable. So I find that I'm actually doing more than that. I've been doing that, sticking to that for the last sort of weeks. I'm doing more than that in my training, and I'm definitely doing more than that with my reading. But I'm not going to change those goals. I'm still going to stick to them. That's my minimum. And what I find is that it's quite motivating, because as soon as I start, I'll usually go above and beyond in those activities. So that's something that I've found that's with me, and I wanted to share with you. And hopefully there's something that you're out of a routine or you're not in habit with. Eventually, once you've done it for about 12 weeks, it'll just become automatic. And that's the hardest part, is changing a habit. But yeah, biggest learning is that time can never be an excuse. And that's something I continually remember. And that it all comes down to prioritizing important for us. And a big part of that is filtering what say yes to and what we need to say no to. Next part and last part of the podcast is for those footballers listening in, this is just some of the questions that I'll typically ask in my first consultation with a remote coaching for those on the like a Pro individualized coaching program, and we're not able to see them in the gym or on the field. We do Zoom coaching sessions, and typically I'll ask around these 10 questions and a few others, and I wanted to share that being our first live chat for 2022 with you guys in the podcasting world. So these 10 questions are all revolved around and really, really important in knowing your why, and therefore what actions do we need to do to get fitter, faster, and stronger. If you don't know your why, then you'll have a drop off in consistency, and it's consistency that pays dividends. Consistency is a lot more important in terms of long-term development than intensity. Although intensity has a place, consistency is what's going to get us to where we need to go and really realize our potential. So we'll list these off. If you're listening live or you're listening in the podcast world, answer these questions and take the time. They'll definitely, no doubt, if you haven't asked questions before, they'll get you thinking a little bit differently in terms of your preparation. And hopefully it will allow you to get some results for 2022 and allow for this to be your best season yet. So first one, am I getting the results I want from my training? So that's a really simple one. And you can go one or two ways. If you're getting the results that you want from my training, then it's simply doing what you're doing. If you're not, then you need to make a change. Otherwise, you're just going to keep getting the same results. The next part of that, which is on the same sort of path, is what results do you want? And for those that are on the individualized package, my follow-up question for that would be, if you joined our individualized coaching package, what would be the number one thing you would want in 3 months' time? So is it to improve your max speed, your acceleration ability, your lifting technique in the gym, your body composition, putting on more muscle or dropping body fat? What is the one thing in 3 months' time that you want to achieve? And then around that is we can think about too many things and get distracted that we want all these things, and you end up not doing anything. So really think about what is the number one thing that you want to achieve and pouring your energy into that. Another element to that question, number 3, is when I see other people get the results I want, what does it look like? That's a good visual task. So what does success look like? If it's improving your skills and you want to improve your kicking, write down really specifically in detail what that looks like. Think of someone that's doing that now. This part is around your support, which is really, really important for those that want to reach for performance. So number 4, who are my biggest supporters that will stretch and support me towards my goal? So not only will they just pump you up all the time and say how good you are, but they'll challenge you and ask you and potentially challenging what you don't want to hear, but they're doing it from a good place to be able to make you better. So noting those people down, both family, coaches, friends, support network is massive. So we want to make sure that we're aware of those. Number 5 is how can you help? So noting down, we want to make sure what's important to us. We want to make sure we're being grateful and showing our appreciation, and part of that is supporting them. So we're thinking of some ways that you can give back to those. So for some, it's going to be your parents, it's going to be your coach, it's going to be your peers. Thinking of ways that you can support them. Number 6, what are those who are getting the results doing different to yourself? So thinking of that person that was getting the results that you want and you want to achieve this year, what are they doing differently to you? Are they working hard? Are they more consistent? Are they try and work out? And if you're not sure, speak to that person, because success leaves clues. Number 7, are you intrinsically or extrinsically motivated for your results? So simply, do these results, are you passionate about it? Have they come from internally? Have they come from yourself? Or are you doing them motivated to please someone else, like a parent, a coach, a friend? Are you motivated for financial reward? So is it coming from a place that you love, or is it coming from a place to be able to please or serve others? Number 8, are you enjoying your football? Really, really important question. And it's important for all ages, particularly youth. But it's all about fun. You should be enjoying your football. It's about playing and enjoying the game with your mates, but also for adults as well. That's a really, really, really important one. And if the answer is no, this is something that you need to prioritize, more important than anything else. How hard you're working in the gym, on the field, with your skills. If you're not enjoying the game, you're potentially leading to out, which potentially you could put yourself at risk of or just simply not putting your best foot forward. And if the answer is no, think of the time when you last did. When did you really enjoy the game? We want to try and tap back into that. What were you doing differently to enjoy the game? Who were you playing with? What was the environment? What was your approach? And maybe down your road where you're taking football too seriously and we need to strip a bit to enjoy the game again. Number 9, do you know the difference between good and bad pain? So this is around self-awareness, body awareness. Really, really important skill for a footballer to have, because it is a long competitive season and we're demanding the body in every athletic pursuit. Jumping higher, sprinting faster, aerobic capacity, strength, size, power. So the body's being stretched in every direction. We want to make sure that we have a good awareness around knowing when to pull back and when we can push forward to be able to improve your capacity. So knowing that is really, really important. Number 10, and last one, are you consistently sticking to your routine? And are you prioritizing your intensity in the key areas? So not getting distracted. Number 1, focus on your routine, what works well for you and allows you to perform well on a weekly basis. And are you prioritizing, are you using your intensity ticket, to call it, in the right area? So if you know that your footwork and your speed is really, really important for your game, make sure that you're putting intensity to that, to top that weapon. Don't waste it on another part of your game that maybe you're not going to get the best return for effort. If you want help on these 10 areas, feel free to message us. If you have any questions or queries, reach out. More than happy to help out. And like I mentioned earlier, for those that want to ask me live questions on the Zoom platform for an exclusive access, once a month, our newsletter members will be able to join myself and the Academy members. And all you need to do is subscribe to our newsletter, which is at propellerpro.com. Jordan Love, best looking S&C, mate. It's not an aesthetic thing. It's all about knowledge. That's this episode, guys. And if you have any questions or queries, make sure to shoot them through. Really looking forward to our new segment, the webinar, which will be starting on January 9th at 5 p.m. I'll send out the Zoom link 48 hours before via email to our members as well as the newsletters. And let's make sure that 2022 is your best season yet, and answer those questions. Take your time, don't rush through them. If you have any questions or queries, make sure to reach out, and I'll see you guys on the next episode.